1 star. Everyone in this book should have died. Today, we're looking at unhinged Goodreads reviews. Look, the goal of this video, we're not gonna hate, we're not gonna bully, we're not gonna be mean. We're here for funny, haha time. Because anytime people can comment on the internet, there's gonna be some unhinged, kind of funny stuff. Let's get into it. First, we're going to look at Pride and Prejudice on Goodreads. If you don't know what Pride and Prejudice is about, this book is about Lizzie Bennet, who is sort of in Georgian England, late 1700s. She and her 4 sisters, her sisters are navigating this world of courtships and marriage and what their futures might be, while under a lot of societal pressures. This person said, Jesus Christ, just have sex. Okay. Next, Elizabeth spends most of the novel sitting around complaining about Mr. Darcy and Mr. Bingley while doing absolutely nothing to better her situation. At least Jay Gatsby did something about his love. Are you good? Okay. This person said, 1 star. These are all 1 star, BT dubs. The book itself is bad enough, but to complicate matters, women pledge allegiance not only to the book, but also to the gazillion-hour movie. Women bad. Next, when the story begins, Elizabeth Bennet is smart, independent, and not overly concerned with bagging a husband, which, by the standards of Victorian England, makes her a feminist trailblazer. First of all, it's Georgian England, not Victorian England. Second of all, she's spent like any time looking at the historical context, the cultural context. No, we're just gonna go with that, okay? Next one. I can't believe my professor read this 25 times. I am dead inside. I hope you got through college okay. Last one. In my opinion, this is just a book about Victorian snobs talking about snobby things, and I don't like snobs. I used to hate Mr. Darcy until I found out he has $10,000 a year. Now I'm madly in love with him. The unromantic linking of money and love are just too much for me, and just makes women of this time period seem pathetic. Okay. Common thread. Not really understanding the historical viewpoint, the historical mind point, and just kind of looking at it with our, 21st century brain. Yes, there's a lot about money. There's a lot about women and money and marriage. Because, in that time, Jane Austen's era, if you were a woman and you did not make a good match, you did not marry well, you did not find a good husband, you were kind of just in poverty, and might have just, starved on the street, because you didn't have someone to take care of you, unless you had a benevolent brother who took pity on you and took you in. Which, I'm unsure about this, so Google this, research it beyond me. Jane Austen herself, she never married, she did not marry, her sister didn't marry, and after her father died, she, her mother, and her sister, I believe they lived in Bath, but they lived in, pretty close to the poverty level. They were not at the same status they were when her father was alive, because she and her sister didn't get married. They did not have the protection that you, unfortunately, needed. And so yeah, if you look at it from a 21st century lens, and you're like, these women are just out for money and marriage, that's so silly and superficial. It's actually not superficial, because it's about their survival. Okay, I think my blood pressure has risen enough. Let's move on to the next book, Dracula by Bram Stoker. If you don't know what Dracula's about, this book, you start out with Jonathan Harker. He goes to Transylvania. Mysteriously, he meets Count Dracula, who seems kind of weird, something weird going on. And then he comes back to England, and what's going to happen with Count Dracula? What is he? Why are his teeth so pointy? It's about vampires. I just read this one, so I thought it would be kind of fun to see what some people said. Let's start here. Shockingly, not a whole hell of a lot of vampire stuff up in this bitch. Mostly, it read like a dull travel log with lots of emotions. Bro love everywhere. Honestly, yeah. Oh, this person wrote a novel about a novel. Next. It started out with promise, especially the Jonathan Harker bits. Then, all the male characters descended into blubbering worshippers of the 2 female characters, and by the end of the novel, I was wishing Dracula could snack on all of them and be done with it. Also kinda yeah. 1 star. When does he open the hotel? Next one. The story was intriguing enough, but around halfway, after one of the main characters died, it's just the 19th century equivalent of conference call after conference call on how to destroy Dracula. Honestly, yeah, you get to the second half, and it's okay, we're spending most of this novel discussing how to get rid of Dracula, and we're talking about the same thing over and over and over again, and we're not really finding Dracula. Fair comment. Let's move on. Dracula is portrayed solely as an evil man, and Van Helsing comes across as a boring grandpa. I would say boring, quirky grandpa, but yeah, he's kind of a boring, quirky grandpa. Next one. This is my 3rd attempt in the last couple of years, and thank God it's over. I'll stick to the movies. Thanks. I don't judge you. Okay, let's do one more. Reading Dracula kind of felt like taking a long stroll on the beach that just takes much longer than you initially thought. The beginning's pleasant, you're enjoying the fresh sea smell and the sound of waves. You can already see the place you have to go, but somehow, even after walking more than an hour, the place does not seem to get a little closer. Again, I get it. Fair enough. She's stepping on my letters. Sweetie, you don't know how to type. Wow, I love this view. Wow, friend. Let's talk about Dracula. I kind of agree with a lot of these. Like, the first half of Dracula is fun, it's spooky, it's creepy, and then you get to the second half and it's like, okay, now we're just talking about how to kill Dracula 8,000 times and we're not actually doing anything. And also there's a cowboy saying yee-haw every 5 minutes. What's up with that? I don't know. Let's talk about our next book. Okay, I think now I did 2 classics. Ooh, let's look at Jane Eyre. Let's see what people are saying about that one. If Spot will let me stop petting her. Spot, what's your favorite classic book? She said Dante's Inferno. If you don't know what Jane Eyre is about, Jane Eyre grows up as an orphan. She ends up becoming a governess for Mr. Rochester, and a lot of mysterious things happen. She begins to develop feelings for Mr. Rochester. Things develop as they do. It's more of a gothic style romance. 1 stars. This person says, pro tip. If a guy twice your age who freely admits his proclivity for continental floozy, gruffly dismisses his own possible child except to underpay staff to deal with her, is intense and flies into passions, makes you mop up after and keep silent about assaults in your home, and then fails to mention until you're at the altar that, oh, he's married and the psycho who tried to kill you in your bed is actually his wife, you get gone and stay gone. Probably good advice if that happened to you. I would also say, maybe don't stick around and marry that guy. I will also say, I'm gonna throw it in here, sometimes in these reviews, especially like 1-star reviews, you see people who are kind of like boiling it down to become so like essential to just like the essential details that like, yeah, it sounds dumb. If you talk about anything like that, it's gonna sound dumb. You can make anything sound stupid if you try hard enough, but it's kind of about like, how are you interacting with this? Are you going into it with the view that you're not gonna like it? I don't know. Maybe we can just accept nuance sometimes. This person says, the 1 star is for Bertha. Fair. This person says, 1 star, I hate this book. That was all. That's all I had to say. This person says, just really, what are the chances that she ends up at the cousin's house to begin with? I get that, right? When you're reading a book and you're like, well, this seems too contrived. Like, what are the odds this happens? My main thought to anything like that typically in a book is like, well, what are the odds any of it happens? Like, if we were going basically on like what would happen in reality, none of the book would have happened, because that's kind of why you write a book and use your imagination, because it's not real. That's just my 2 cents. Next, this person says, I run a Jane Eyre hate account, 1 star. This is such a Tumblr review. Okay, this person says, worst book I've ever read in my life. I had to for school. When it was done, I went up to the teacher, ripped it in half, and put it on her desk. Sure did, my guy. Sure did. That's probably all for Jane Eyre. I think I've reached capacity. Okay, Jane Eyre. Look, I think I gave this 5 stars. I think it's a great book. It's very well written. I enjoy the journey of Jane Eyre. I see it. I get the point. I think criticisms of Mr. Rochester are fair. Guy was kind of weird. He dressed up as like a psychic to trick Jane Eyre into saying that she liked him. Weird behavior. If my friend came to me and was like, hey, this guy I like at the fair put on a robe and stood in front of a crystal ball and pretended to be a different person and tricked me into telling me his fortune and that he actually really liked me and that I liked him, I would say, wow, you should block him and file a restraining order. So I kind of get it. I do like the book though. I think you should read it. Okay, let's do it. Let's reach heightened levels of torture. Let's read 1-star reviews of The Secret History. The Secret History is about a group of students at an elite New England college who study the classics, specifically Greek, and they end up they slip kind of gradually into obsession, fusion, panic, and evil. I just read this book. I liked it a lot. I thought it was very well done. I thought it was very fun. Let's see why people hated it. This person said, for some reason, her characters are bland, have no personality, and are really annoying. Yes, even more than that bitch of Bunny. First of all, what does that second sentence even mean? This person said, to be honest, if I wanted the thoughts of a bunch of classist elitists who know dead classic languages, I'd just have dinner with my family. I'm sorry. Next, let's read this one. To quote the book itself, there's nothing wrong with the love of beauty, but beauty, unless she is wed to something more meaningful, is always superficial. This is exactly how I feel. Exactly in all caps. The writing is undeniably gorgeous. The aesthetic is perfect, but it's just that, aesthetic. Have we taken a minute to think that perhaps that is the point? That perhaps the point Donna Tartt is attempting to make, that the world of all of these students is simply aesthetic, that it's kind of lacking in meaning for all of the deep meaning they attempt to assert over it, and that it is superficial, and that maybe she's trying to show that with her writing. We can dream, people. We can dream. But this was a whole new level of obliviousness, talking about the main character, Richard. He spends pages rambling pretentiously about the most trivial things while the other characters plot very obviously in front of him and he sees absolutely nothing. Again, that is kind of the point of the book. And I don't want to be too mean. Like, we all interpret things, we like different things about books. Different things speak to us differently, so no shade at all to this person. But at the same time, it always kind of does amaze me how some people, you just kind of like miss something that is kind of like the point of the book. Like, yeah, that's bad. Yes, Richard is missing a lot of things. Yes, he's an unreliable narrator. That's the point. That's what Donna Tartt is trying to tell you. So you got it. You did get it. Next. 1 star. Everyone in this book should have died. That's funny. 1 star. Apparently Bunny's body isn't the only thing that falls off a cliff at the halfway point. That's funny. Okay, I think we're good. I think I've reached my max. A lot of people seem to be saying it's boring. I get that. I don't think The Secret History is for everyone. It does a bit of meandering. It takes some rabbit trails. There's a lot of, like, prose for the sake of prose, perhaps I would say. Good job. Okay, I think that's all. If I read any more, I think I'm going to ascend to another plane of dimension. So I think we're going to wrap it up for today. This was fun. I enjoyed this. Even if I disagree with some of these reviews, some of these people, I think a lot of them are still really funny and pretty enjoyable to read. So let me know if you like this, if you want to see more videos like this, or anything else. I don't know. You tell me. Like this video, subscribe, and leave me a comment. Tell me what you think. Did you agree with these people? Did you disagree? Okay, thanks.